by filing these lawsuits, we have to talk about what Brett Favre has opened himself up to, right? Dan, we've spent so much time on this podcast in the last year and a half. We talked about Deshaun Watson. Why didn't he file a defamation case? Well, I can tell you for at least one reason, right? Deshaun Watson is playing football. He has this in his rear view mirror. He's moving on, right? And maybe another case will come about, but he's moving past it. Trevor Bauer, but then when he filed his defamation case, he filed 3 of them against his accuser and 2 media entities, right? We're talking about media entities. Trevor Bauer had nothing to lose. He had a 2-year suspension from Major League Baseball. For Brett Favre's sake, right? Like, I'm not sure that if Brett Favre was like front page news anymore. I don't know if it was a B-level story or C-level story. At this point, 5 months have passed in September. No one's talking about Brett Favre. But Dan, you and I have both said it on this show, and I genuinely believe this. If you go after Shannon Sharpe and Pat McAfee, you have now turned this into a story that people are going to talk about, number one, Dan. And number two, this is the part that I know you want to talk about, and I'm curious about it. You have now kind of like alerted Shannon Sharpe's lawyer and Pat McAfee's lawyer and, Shad White's lawyer. These people are now financially motivated to prove the truth of these allegations that Brett Favre actually did commit this welfare fraud. So now you don't just have the state of Mississippi coming after you. You now have 3 individual plaintiffs in these cases who are all going to hire their own lawyers, and they're all going to pursue the truth. So whether that be defamations, discovery, right? Dan, potential depositions of Brett Favre's daughter, who was on the volleyball team, and she might know, right? They can make Brett Favre's life hell during this discovery phase. So I hope Brett Favre's like lawyers, they really made a call and they said, you know what, in the grand scheme of things, this is worth it for Brett Favre's reputation to sue. And I don't think anyone's going to go out there, Dan. I put out an open invite to all 5 million lawyers in the world to come to my Fordham Law School class on Monday and defend the Brett Favre position and really kind of genuinely do it. I didn't get any takers. So I think this was a huge PR risk.
Dan. Here's how you defend it. Here's how you defend it, Dan. This may not be a national story in Florida and New York until now, but it is a big story in Mississippi. It is a big story in Mississippi where Brett Favre lives, where Brett Favre has a reputation, where his charitable foundation donates millions of dollars to Mississippians. And he has a reputation, a good reputation, maybe as a result of this case, who knows? But when you call somebody a thief, when you're saying that he stole money, and you say that to somebody with the reputation as a football player, his nickname was the gunslinger, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. And I think Brett Favre is bringing that to life. And crucially here, you're only looking at the risk from Favre's perspective. Yeah, he can open himself up to discovery, and whatever that discovery could generate could potentially lead to more problems for Brett Favre. But the risk isn't one-sided here. There's also risk on the part of Shannon Sharpe. There's a risk for Shad White. There's a risk for Pat McAfee. They are defendants in a case where they uttered the words, Brett Favre, you stole money, when Favre has not been charged with a criminal offense. So at the beginning, at least, at the outset, those defendants are dealing from a disadvantageous position based upon having made statements that may have gone a lot further